Greetings, this is Chris from Tantalizing Tech. Today we're going to talk about the Dell XPS 7930 and also run benchmarks on the laptop. In particular, in this episode, we're going to use the 3DMark Time Spy Score to evaluate the capabilities of this laptop. In this particular video, we'll first install the service to install the 3DMark Time Spy Score, and this is the Steam service from 3DMark. As you can see here, we're installing, and in step one, we're installing some Microsoft DirectX executables. We're also installing some .NET components that will be necessary to run these different functions. So I'll let that continue for a minute. As you can see here, we're installing the .NET framework right here. And I think it's almost completed. Couple of more seconds, and I think we might be finished. All right, we're initializing the 3DMark, the gamer's benchmark, and particularly, as I mentioned before, this is the Time Spy Score. Right here we have a message from Microsoft Visual C++ Runtime Library, and in this particular error that we received here, I'm just going to hit retry. As you can see, assertion failed, and it gives a lot of information about it. I just hit retry, and it should work. Right now, the 3DMark tool is scanning the system info, so we'll give it a couple of minutes to do that. All right, it looks like it's finishing and starting the user interface. And right now it's recommending benchmarks for the system. I may expand this. And in terms of this, I'm going to run the, as I mentioned before, the Time Spy component, which is DirectX 12 benchmarks for gaming PCs. As you can see there, we also have other information about the system, the GPU, the CPU, and the storage. For the GPU, we have the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4080 laptop GPU. We have the 13th generation Intel Core i9 13900H. We have, for storage, we have an NVMe PC 801 NVMe SK Hynix 1 terabyte drive. And you can see all the specifications that we have here. In terms of the CPU, we have 2 times DDR5 memory. So we're using DDR5 memory for the memory in this particular laptop, not DDR4. And I'm going to go ahead and click Run. As you can see right now, we're running the benchmark for Time Spy, collecting system information again. Let's just give it a little bit time to gather their system information for 3DMark Time Spy. Still collecting the system information, so as again, you have to be a little bit patient with it. All right, looks like it's about to run its test. As you see in the background, it's rendering different type of graphics for the Time Spy benchmark. I'm going to just mute the mic right now and let you hear the sounds and graphics in the background once it gets started. Okay, as you can see, you should be hearing the sound and also looking at the video for the different type of graphics tests it's performed. So I'll just go on mute. As you can see, it's finished a couple of tests, and now it's going to start another test in about a couple of seconds, so I'll go back on mute. As you can see, once again, it's finishing another set of tests. So it's preparing another set of tests. And also, when you see the video, you can see the frames per second at the bottom. All right, what we see here now is the 3DMark time SPI score. We got a time SPI score of 11,770, a graphics score of 11,681. We have a CPU score of 12,306. You see we have an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4080 laptop GPU, an Intel Iris Xe graphics card also. My score is 11,770. The average is 15,503, and the best score is 7,409. In terms of the various charts, you can see the charts out there. We have charts for monitoring, frame rate, CPU temperature, GPU load, CPU clock frequency, GPU memory clock, and we also have GPU clock frequency. In terms of system information, you can see my system information there for the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4080 laptop GPU. CPU is 13th generation Intel Core i9-13900H, and you could also see the time and system info. In terms of the GPU number 2, Intel Iris Xe graphics, that's the standard card that comes on with the Dell XPS 17. But the main GPU is the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4080 laptop GPU. And you can see my graphics score there, 11,681, and the CPU test of 41 frames per second. We also go through the detailed monitoring in terms of looking at the frames per second. So you see there for graphics 1 and graphics test 2, and also for CPU tests. And remember, graphics test 1 is for the NVIDIA card. In terms of temperature, you can see the temperature graph. We have about 50 degrees there, GPU temperature. That's in Celsius. And you can see what the temperature is for the graphics test 1 versus graphics test 2, and also the CPU test. In terms of percentage, you could also see the percentage. This is the GPU load. So it's fluctuating. You can see we go down to maybe like 20%, and then maybe 0%, and then it goes back up to like 180. And you could trace the graph. As you see, I'm tracing the graph throughout the coordinates here. In terms of GPU load, we also have the graphics test 1 and the graphics test 2, and the CPU test also. In terms of frequency, you can see me tracing the curve here. We have the CPU clock frequency, and you can see it's going from, it dips down a little, but it goes up to like 4,300. Every now and then it dips down a little bit to almost 3,000, it looks like. Still probably stabilizing around 4,300 or somewhere around that range. And of course, as before, we have the graphics test 1 and the graphics test 2. And you can see these scores are about 1900, almost 2000, 1995, 1996. This one looks like this spikes up a little bit to like 4,000. And this one looks like it's going back up to like 4,300 or 4,000. Actually, 4,800. In terms of the graphs, you can see the color coding at the bottom, the frame rate, frames per second. We have the temperature. We also have the GPU load, the CPU clock frequency, the GPU memory clock frequency, and the GPU clock frequency. And those are in the corresponding colors of orange and green, blue, red, purple, yellow, and pink. And that's all the way at the bottom. As you can see, I'm scrolling back up, so you can once again see the detailed scores. Score of 11,681. Graphics test 1 was 77.11 frames per second. The other test was 66.23 frames per second. And we're scrolling up to the top of the score here. One of the things I want to do is compare the result online. So I'm going to click on this button and see where the laptop stands. Of course, if you want to create an account, that's your option to create an account. So for TimeSpy, we have a score of 11,770 with an NVIDIA RTX 4080 and an Intel Core i9 13900H. Graphics score is 11,681. The CPU score is 12,306. And if you look at the run details, you could see the premium gaming laptop for 2020 is at 19,781. This particular laptop is at 11,771, which they say is better than 70% of all the results out there. And you can see the other laptops beneath that. This goes through a detailed description of the graphics card and also the secondary graphics card. So we have an NVIDIA RTX 4080 from Dell, of course. Well, the computer vendor is Dell. And you can see the amount of memory that's included, about 12 gigabytes for this video card. For this processor, we have an Intel Core i9 13900H processor. You can see that it has 14 cores. And in terms of the other operating system, memory, I'm running about 64 gigabytes with 2 sticks of 32 gigabytes. And in terms of that, that's all we have for you in terms of running this 3DMark Time Spy Score. I want to thank you for watching Tantalizing Tech.